Mount Trashmore. If you skated in the 80s on the East Coast, you know the name. Even if you never made it there, you still know it from the Bones Brigade video show, contests, and skate mags. It felt larger than life because Mount Trashmore wasn't just a skate park, it was an icon. I got to skate there a few times, mostly in '88 and '89. I wasn't a local, but I lived less than 2 hours away, so we'd make day trips. I'll never forget it. Long before street skating exploded, ramps were king. In places like Trashmore, they were rare. A city-funded open-air skate facility that actually supported vert skating, that was a big deal, especially on the East Coast. Before it was a skate park or even a park, Mount Trashmore was literally a mountain of garbage. Yeah, a real landfill. In the 70s, Virginia Beach converted that landfill into a massive public green space as the area around it was being developed. Layers of compacted trash and soil were sculpted into mounds, with the main one standing over 60 feet tall, perfect for soapbox derby races, which were some of the first big events there. And then came the skaters. That same derby hill drew early riders bombing down its slopes, and eventually that spark led to something much bigger. Mount Trashmore's first real skate terrain started with asphalt snake runs, curving downhill paths that mimicked that early California style. And by the time I got there, they were still around but fenced off. And I've got this photo here of me and a friend just staring through that fence, just imagining what it must have been like. But the snake runs were just the beginning. The city eventually added ramps, and not just any ramps, the legendary Vert ramp that launched careers, the funky beginner ramp tucked behind it, and later a proper mini ramp. This was a full-blown skate facility built by the city, open to the public with a giant mound of trash behind it. Amazing. The main ramp, 10 feet tall, a foot of vert, and 32 feet wide. That might not sound huge today, but back then on the East Coast, it was massive, a true vert battleground. It started as blue plywood with PVC coping, then came pool coping and a white paint job. That's the version we see in Future Primitive, but the humid weather wrecked plywood fast, and they resurfaced it with fiberglass and swapped in steel coping. That's the version that I skated. For grip on the slick fiberglass, locals used Coke or sugar water. Total DIY, but you just made it work. Even if you never went, you knew Trashmore from the legendary contest footage. The NSA's King of the Mountain in '85 and East Coast Assault in '86 became must-watch videos produced by Vision's Brad Dorfman. They featured legends Tony Hawk, Mike McGill, Christian Assoy, Lance Mountain, Jeff Phillips, the list goes on and on. These contests made Mount Trashmore synonymous with skate history on the East Coast. Just watch that contest footage. People packed shoulder to shoulder around the ramp, screaming for every trick. Trashmore just wasn't another skate stop, it was the main stage. And then there were the locals. Sergie Ventura was the big name when I was there. We'd stand in awe watching him fly on that vert ramp. He even took third in the NSA highest air contest right behind Hosoi and Hawk. But there were also the Gutierrez brothers. I don't remember seeing Henry Gutierrez skate. I probably did and I just didn't realize it at the time. But I still do have this thrashed Gutierrez deck. I've just kept it all these years and it's awesome. The Windsor Woods neighborhood crew wasn't just part of the scene, they were the scene. I didn't know any of them personally, but I remember seeing the fork symbol spray painted on signs and that some of the guys had actually branded their shoulders with heated forks. That was punk rock crazy to a 13-year-old suburban kid. But they never gave us a hard time. As long as we didn't snake them on the big ramp, they didn't seem to mind us being around. They definitely preferred that we stuck to the little ramp, but every now and then they'd humor us, let us pump on the vert for a few minutes, and that meant everything. I recently stumbled across their old VB thrash zines from back in the day, and suddenly all those fork references make way more sense. You can actually find a few of those issues on archive.org. And of course, there's the famous story of Mike Vallely getting discovered in the parking lot. He lived in Virginia Beach for a short time and happened to be skating outside the '86 East Coast Assault contest, just going off in the parking lot while the pros were skating the ramp. His raw energy stood out. Street skating hadn't even taken over yet, but Lance Mountain and Stacy Peralta saw something in him, and the rest is history. So that's the big picture history, but let me share what Trashmore meant to me. My family and I, we moved to Richmond, Virginia in the late 80s, and my dad would occasionally have to travel to Virginia Beach for work, and my mom and I would usually tag along, and she always made sure that I got at least one full day at Trashmore, and in the summer I usually got to bring a friend. So yeah, I wish I still had my original membership card. It's been lost for decades, but for some reason I made a photocopy back in the day, and somehow I managed to hang on to it after all these years, and this This one's from the spring of '88. I totally remember having to track down the guy with the clipboard every time we showed up to skate. He'd check our names and sign us in before we could hit the ramps. We mostly skated the funky beginner ramp behind the Vert ramp. It was about 6 feet tall on one side going just up to Vert, and then it was around 8 feet on the other side, and that side had no platform. It was tough to do tricks on, but that's where I learned to drop in, do tail taps, slash grinds, axle pivots. I didn't know any better, and we just had a blast. I never worked up the nerve to drop into the big ramp, but climbing up on the deck, just sitting there watching Sergie Ventura absolutely destroy, it felt like front row seats to something legendary. And then when they built the proper mini ramp around 1989, it changed everything for me. I spent hours at a time on that thing, and most of the lip tricks I still do today, I learned them right there. Okay, quick tangent. No conversation about Trashmore is complete without a shout out to the 17th Street Surf Shop and WRV. 17th Street sponsored those epic contests, and then in the late 80s, everybody at school had one of those crew t-shirts, and they weren't just shirts, they symbolized belonging to skate and surf culture, even for kids who didn't skate or surf. And I still remember when the Bones Brigade tour came to WRV, pretty sure it was around '88, maybe '89. Rodney Mullen was there, Tommy Guerrero, Ray Barbie, Jim Thiebaud, and yep, Sergie Ventura was there hanging out too. Every generation has that one park, the place where legends were made and memories were etched in your brain. For the East Coast, that place was Mount Trashmore. Sure, there were other big East Coast parks like Kona down in Florida, but Trashmore was more accessible to way more people up north. So what happened to it? The original Vert ramp was torn down in the mid-90s. There just weren't enough skaters riding it to justify the upkeep. There wasn't a skate facility at the park again until 2003 when they built a new Vert ramp, a big wooden bowl, and a street course, which was later destroyed by arson in 2006. Eventually they rebuilt the park again, and there's still a massive Vert ramp there today. I had a chance to visit a few years ago while passing through the area, and I didn't have my board with me, but it just felt good to be there again. If I ever go back, I'm definitely skating for old time's sake. Mount Trashmore will always represent an era of skating that shaped so many of us. Thanks for watching, thanks for remembering, and hey, if you've got Mount Trashmore memories of your own, drop them below and let's keep the stories rolling. And oh,
keep the damn raccoon out of my truck, please.